This is the moment $8 billion of other people's money stopped being there. Picture the withdraw button on an exchange. Behind that button, the money is supposed to be sitting exactly where the customers left it under their names. Nobody broke in. The case against Sam Bankman-Fried was never about a hacker, and it was never about a crash. The money had been moved over years by the man who ran both companies. The man customers had been told they could hand everything to. His own co-founder later testified under oath to where it went. Forbes had put his net worth at about $26 billion. His company, FTX, had been valued at $32 billion. He wore cargo shorts and a t-shirt. He reportedly slept on a beanbag at the office. He appeared at a congressional hearing where lawmakers asked him how crypto should be regulated. A math kid who visibly did not care about money. That image was worth more than any advertisement he could have bought. So we are going to rewind and watch what it was covering, because none of this happened in one night. It started in the summer of 2019 with a flag added to the FTX codebase. Stay for three things. The flag that made one firm's accounts different from every other. The number nobody outside the building was watching. And what the court record says happened to $8 billion. This is the case file of Sam Bankman-Fried, convicted of fraud, sentenced to 25 years in prison. And this is how the rules came off. One firm's accounts, in writing, in the software. It does not start with a crime. It starts with trust. Because before you can lose other people's money, somebody has to hand it to you. And for years, almost everybody did. To be handed other people's money at that scale, you first have to be trusted with it. That is the difficult part. The losing is easy. Sam Bankman-Fried was trusted by customers who deposited their money with him to trade. He was trusted by the investors who valued his company at $32 billion. He was trusted by Congress. There was a phrase for him, used widely, the adult in the room, and the adult in the room did not look like one. Cargo shorts, a t-shirt, curly hair. He reportedly slept on a beanbag at the office, and it was reported that way again and again, and it worked because it read as proof. Someone who wanted your money would look like he wanted your money. This one appeared not to notice money at all. A math kid who looked like he could not be bought. That is a powerful thing to believe about a man holding your account. It is also not a control. Nobody audits a beanbag, and behind the beanbag, the numbers were getting large. Forbes had put Sam Bankman-Fried's net worth at roughly $26 billion at the peak in early 2022. The company spent it where everyone could see. None of that is a crime. All of it is ordinary corporate behavior, bought with money. The question is, whose money? And underneath the advertisements, there were two companies, not one. So here are the two boxes. Keep them separate in your head, because he did not keep them separate anywhere else. Box one is FTX. FTX was an exchange. An exchange is a place where you put your money so you can trade. A counter and a vault behind the counter. The money in that vault is not the exchange's money. It is yours. It sits under your name and the exchange holds it for you. And its only right to it is to hand it back when you ask. Box 2 was his. Box 2 is Alameda Research. Alameda was a private trading firm. It made bets, some of them risky, with its own money, and if it lost every dollar it had, that would have been legal. Completely legal. A trading firm exists to take that risk. Nobody goes to prison for a bad trade. Two boxes then. One holds money that belongs to strangers and must simply be there. One holds money that belongs to him and is allowed to disappear. Same founder. One rule between them. The rule is called segregation of customer funds. It is not a suggestion, and it is not complicated. Customer money in the exchange and the trading firm's own money never touch. Not for an afternoon, not as a loan, not to cover a position that will certainly recover by Friday. The wall does not care about your reasons, because every reason sounds good at the moment you need it. It is built by people who assume that one day someone very smart will have a very good reason, and walls do not enforce themselves. Somebody has to enforce it. In a real firm, that somebody has a desk, and the desk is called risk. It sits apart from the traders. It is paid to be unpopular. Its whole job is to look at the founder, the genius, the adult in the room, and say no, that account gets liquidated like everyone else's. Remember that desk. Watch for who was allowed to say no for the rest of the story. Because the question in these cases is never whether the founder was clever. It is who was allowed to tell him no. At FTX, the answer arrived early. Early is the part that stays with you. Not that the wall came down, walls come down. It is the timing. FTX opened and the customers arrived and the money went into the vault under their names. And shortly after, code was written and made Alameda's accounts different from all the others. July 2019, not year 5, when things were desperate. Year 0, shortly after the exchange opened. That is what makes the next part hard to look at. Here is the situation, and it is boring, which is the point. Customer money sits on an exchange. It is not invested. It is not lent out. It sits in an account belonging to the person who put it there. Billions of dollars doing nothing. That is what an exchange is. A vault with a screen on the front. Under the same founder is a trading firm. A trading firm's entire job is to have money. And bet it, Alameda Research was in the business of making bets. The customer money on FTX was not its money, and the billions were right there. This is the reasoning the rule exists to defeat, and it is not sophisticated. The money is sitting still. Trades are time sensitive. It would only be a loan. Nobody in this file has been quoted saying it. The rule assumes somebody will think it. The wall is the entire reason an exchange is permitted to hold your money in the first place. It is not a courtesy. FTX had only just opened. In July of 2019, shortly after FTX opened for business, Sam Bankman-Fried directed his co-founder Gary Wang to write some code. This is Wang's testimony, given under oath for the prosecution. The code did one thing. It allowed Alameda Research's balance on FTX to go below 0. That is the whole of it, below 0. A number that was not permitted to be negative was now permitted to be negative for Alameda's accounts out of every account on the exchange. The flag had a name. It was called Allow Negative. Bankman-Fried asked Wang and an engineer named Nishad Singh to add it, and on August 1st, 2019, it went into the FTX codebase. Consider how small that is. There is no vault being drilled, no mask, no van, no night. It is an ordinary working day. It is a flag typed into a file by an engineer. In the ordinary course of shipping code, nothing on any screen anywhere changed color. On an exchange, when a position goes against you, the exchange takes it away from you, automatically, without asking and without caring who you are. That is called liquidation, and it is not cruelty. It is the thing that keeps the exchange standing when a customer is wrong. Every customer on FTX was subject to it. Alameda was not. Wang testified that Bankman-Fried told him to make sure Alameda's accounts would never be liquidated on FTX. Many of those accounts could now run negative and could not be closed out. Wang testified that Alameda ultimately withdrew about $8 billion more than it had in its account, in cash and in crypto. That money was real. It belonged to the customers of FTX. Notice what the crime is here? Because it is easy to point at the wrong thing. Borrowing is not the crime. Losing is not the crime. Alameda was free to lose every dollar it owned, and that would have been legal. The crime is the exception. Accounts that the rules did not apply to, written into the software on purpose. And for a long stretch, nothing surfaced. The exception sat in the code, and no one outside the building knew it existed. Customers saw a balance on a screen. The screen said nothing about the exception written into the code behind it. Nothing had surfaced yet. That is the part worth sitting with. A control broken with no visible damage is a control that nobody enforces. Here is the lesson, and it is colder than the story. The wall did not fall down. Nobody kicked it in. It did not begin as a break-in. A door was added. Once the door existed, it stayed. That is how every version of this begins. Not with a heist with a door. The door stayed open. And the strange part of this story is not what happened next. The strange part is that for the next 3 years, none of it looked like a crime from the outside. For nearly 3 years, none of this is a problem. The exchange grows, customers deposit money, and the money appears to be there because for most of them, on most days, it is. Nobody audits a door they do not know exists. So the world, watching the outside of the building, does what the world does. It decides the man who built it is a genius. At one point, FTX is valued at $32 billion. That is the number attached to the company at its peak. And money that size starts buying things you can see from your couch. FTX runs an advertisement during the Super Bowl. It buys the naming rights to a sports arena, and the name goes up on the outside of the building. This is the part that does not look like a crime, but crime looks like a back room. This looked like a halftime break. If you were watching, you did not see a man with a door in his wall. You saw a brand standing next to the other brands. That is what $32 billion buys, not just money. Permission. And then it gets official. Then he appears before Congress, not as a suspect. He appears at a congressional hearing, and lawmakers ask him how crypto ought to be regulated. They are asking the man who runs the exchange what the rules for exchanges should be. He gives money to both political parties, not one, both. And somewhere in all of this, people start using a particular phrase about him over and over until it stops sounding like an opinion and starts sounding like a fact. The adult in the room, that was the phrase. Crypto was a market full of pitches, and here was the man in the cargo shorts. He did not appear to care about money at all, which is the most reassuring thing a person holding your money can do. He looked the part by refusing to look the part, the safe one. And being the safe one, holding everyone's money with a door on the wall and no referee, is completely fine right up until the casino loses. In the spring of 2022, the casino loses. In May, a so-called stablecoin called Terra USD collapses, and the token beside it, Luna, goes with it. Stable was in the name, it was not in the outcome. When something that was supposed to be impossible happens in a market, the money does not walk out, it runs. And the crypto funds that had borrowed widely start failing one after another. Three Arrows Capital is among them. It had borrowed widely, and so had the funds around it. Alameda Research was a borrower. Alameda's lenders get frightened, the way lenders do, all at once, for the same reason, and they call their loans back. This is the ordinary, boring, entirely legal thing that happens to a trading firm in a bad market. Someone asks for the money back, and Alameda does not have it. That is the position. The lenders are at the door. The cash is not there, and he is standing inside a building that holds other people's money, customer deposits, sitting where customer deposits are supposed to sit. Somewhere in the same building, in the code, is a door he had directed his co-founder to build 3 years earlier. One flag, allow negative. That is the flag Gary Wang testified about. In the spring of 2022, that door is still only a line of code, and the door is still there. We stop there. This is a case file, so you already know it does not end well. He was convicted of fraud and conspiracy. In March of 2024, a judge sentenced him to 25 years. Nothing in this file is investment advice, and none of it is about trading. It is about custody, who holds the money, and who is allowed to move it. Because what happens next is not a decision anybody announces. It is a number on a balance sheet that nobody outside the building was watching. That number is where this picture